The thing that broke you open is the same thing that will set you free. Most of us spend the better part of our lives running. We run from discomfort. We run from grief. We run from the quiet ache that sits in our chest when life does not go the way we planned. We fill our days with noise and movement and distraction because stillness means feeling. And feeling, well, feeling might mean facing the very things we have worked so hard to outrun. But what if the running is the problem? What if everything you have been avoiding is actually the doorway to the person you are supposed to become? Think about the last time something truly hurt you. Not a scraped knee, not a bad day at work. I mean the kind of pain that sits in your bones. The loss of someone you loved, the collapse of something you built. The moment you looked in the mirror and did not recognize who was looking back. That kind of pain. Now ask yourself this. What did that moment teach you that nothing else could have? Because I am willing to bet that if you sit with that question honestly and without the armor of your usual defenses, the answer will surprise you. Pain is not random. It is not punishment. It is not the universe deciding that you specifically deserve to suffer. Pain is information. It is the most honest feedback system we will ever receive, and yet we treat it like a malfunction. We medicate it and numb it and scroll past it and talk ourselves out of it. We do everything except the one thing it is asking us to do. Listen, there is a concept that researchers in psychology have studied for decades, and it goes by many names, but the simplest is this. What you resist persists. The pain you refuse to look at does not disappear. It goes underground. It shapes your decisions from a place you cannot see. It makes you angry in rooms where anger makes no sense. It makes you small in moments when you need to be large. It keeps replaying the same chapter of your life over and over because you have not yet understood what that chapter is trying to tell you. 2 out of every 3 people who seek therapy for chronic anxiety report that the anxiety began not with the thing they are anxious about now, but with a wound they never allowed themselves to fully feel 10 or 20 years earlier. The wound waited, and it will keep waiting until you turn toward it. But here is where it gets interesting. The way you interpret an experience is not fixed. It is not handed to you like a sentence. You are not a passive recipient of what happens to you. You are an active participant in what it means. The same event, a divorce, a job loss, a diagnosis, can destroy one person and awaken another, not because they are fundamentally different kinds of people, but because one of them asked a different question. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me, they asked, what is this happening for? That one word. For instead of 2, changes everything. When you ask what this is happening to you, you position yourself as a victim, and victimhood, for all the sympathy it attracts, is one of the most paralyzing places a human being can live. When you live from victimhood, you outsource the power over your own life to every circumstance and every person who has ever wronged you. Your healing becomes contingent on their apology. Your growth becomes hostage to their change, and most of them are never going to change. Most of them are not even thinking about you. You are carrying the weight of a war they have already forgotten they started. The people who wound us most deeply, the parents who did not know how to love us well, the partners who left without explanation, the friends who disappeared when we needed them most. These people are not villains in a story about your weakness. They are mirrors. They are showing you precisely the places inside yourself that still need attention. The anger you feel toward them is real. Do not let anyone rush you past it, but do not live there either. Because on the other side of that anger, if you are willing to walk through it rather than around it, is something extraordinary. It is the moment you stop being defined by what was done to you and start being shaped by who you are choosing to become. Gratitude is perhaps the most misunderstood word in our modern vocabulary. People hear it and they think it means pretending that painful things were actually fine. That is not what it means. Being grateful for a difficult experience does not mean you liked it. It does not mean you would choose it again. It means you are willing to acknowledge that inside the wreckage, there was something worth salvaging, a strength you did not know you had, a clarity you could not have reached any other way, a compassion for other suffering people that you could only have developed because you yourself have suffered. Neuroscience gives us a useful picture here. When we go through prolonged stress and grief and loss, the brain does something remarkable. It begins to prune away connections that are no longer serving us and build new ones that are stronger. Psychologists call it post-traumatic growth, and studies consistently show that between 50 and 70% of people who experience significant trauma report positive psychological changes in its aftermath, not instead of the pain, alongside it, through it. The broken bone that heals becomes denser at the break point than it was before. But this only happens if you stop performing. There is a version of pain management that is really just pain theater. It is the Instagram post about your healing journey that you write before the healing has happened. It is the affirmation you recite while the wound underneath is still raw and unexamined. True transformation is quieter and messier and far less photogenic than we have been led to believe. It requires you to sit in the disorder, to tolerate the discomfort of not knowing yet who you are becoming. Maturity is not the absence of confusion. It is the capacity to stay present inside it. There is a paradox at the heart of all genuine change. You cannot force yourself into becoming someone new. You cannot white-knuckle your way to growth. The more tightly you grip the outcome, the more it eludes you. Real transformation happens in the surrender, not the surrender of giving up, but the surrender of letting go of who you thought you were supposed to be, so that who you actually are can finally breathe. And so we arrive at the most counterintuitive idea I will offer you today. Bless the difficulties, not because they are easy, not because they are fair, not because you deserve them. Bless them because they are the very architecture of your becoming. The conflicts that have cost you sleep, the relationships that cracked your certainty open, the seasons of life that stripped everything away and left you standing in the cold with nothing but yourself. Those are the places where mastery is born, not in the comfortable years, in the stripped bare ones. Emotional freedom is not something that happens to you when circumstances finally improve. It is not waiting on the other side of a promotion or a reconciliation or a move to a new city. Emotional freedom begins inside you, right now, in this moment, with the exact life you have. It begins the second you decide to stop waiting for someone else to release you from your pain and choose instead to understand it, to ask it what it came to teach you, to treat your own suffering not as evidence that something is wrong with you, but as proof that you are fully, magnificently, unfinishedly human. The thing that broke you open is the same thing that will set you free. Do not waste the wound.